Hey guys, this is Top Channel 111 and today let's talk about the new geometry node and how it's going to change not only Blender but the entire 3D industry. Blender is slowly becoming a trendsetter rather than just another wannabe 3D application from the last few decades. Not only is it competing with likes of 3ds Max, Maya and Cinema 4D, but it's slowly creeping on undisputed champions like ZBrush in the sculpting department, as we saw in their latest update where they quote-unquote borrowed some features from the latest Blender sculpting department. If you removed the ZBrush interface and just looked at their demo videos, you would think this is Pablo Dobaro flexing his latest addition to the Blender sculpting tools. I believe if we gave Blender a few more years, the same thing would happen for Houdini, now that Blender Everything nodes has kicked into high gear. Today I'm proud to announce to you that the geometry node has been officially added to Blender Master, meaning you can now get them in the latest Blender you download. This is still work in progress, and as of now, we only have limited functionality. But boy, that is still a lot given what I have seen other artists do with the limited functionality. You just have to search for geometry nodes on YouTube to see for yourself. You guys are really quick at this. Houdini has been the undisputed champion of procedural modeling and simulation for one reason: nodes. They give you a level of control that traditional modeling only dreams of. And before this, comparing Blender to Houdini was unimaginable. I mean, where do you start? Remember the animation nodes project? Well, that is on hold because the guy who was working on it is now the lead supervisor of the Everything Nodes project, which the geometry node is part of. So we can be assured that the Blender Everything Nodes project is in safe hands. If you don't know what animation nodes is, the basic concept was, instead of using keyframes for animation, let's use nodes for animation. To understand why any node-based system makes a lot of hype in the community, you just have to look at the best 3D application and see what they have in common. Houdini, Substance Painter, Nuke, which is a compositor, Unreal Engine, all these top leaders in their specific niche have one thing in common: they all feature nodes prominently in their workflow. And when Blender switched from Blender internal render to cycles, guess what the biggest difference was? Nodes. Nuke is the industry standard for compositing instead of After Effects because of one thing: nodes. Substance Designer is the industry leader in creating procedural materials or shaders because of one thing: nodes. Houdini is the industry leader of creating procedural modeling and simulations because of one thing: nodes. Now, if we brought nodes to Blender, imagine what Blender could become. I firmly believe that every other 3D application will start to look like a knockoff of Blender, like we have seen with ZBrush. I bring this up so that you realize how important this step is. This is the direction that Blender needs to take, and this is fortunately the direction that Blender is taking. So let's dive into a quick demo on how you could use geometry nodes. Okay, so if you download the latest version of Blender, you can find that they have added a new geometry node editor, which you can use to create node trees. Let's use geometry node to create a simple room with say windows and doors. You can do that by adding a new geometry tree. If you go to the modifiers, you'll see that a new geometry modifier has also been added. Now we can use this to manipulate this object. Say if we wanted to transform it, we can add a geometry transform node, and then we can translate it, rotate it, or even scale it. Now what I usually like to do is have the pivot point to be at the corner of the walls like that. So what I can do is add vector math node and just use this for the translate so that I can easily add or subtract. So I can just use these values, and if you feed this into the scale, let's just reset this to 1. You can see that we will have positioned the entire geometry at the pivot point. Now we can scale it using the pivot point at the corner there, so it makes it very easy to adjust things. So I want it to be this thick, and this would control our height, of the height of the wall. So then what you can do is we can use these as output so that we don't always have to go to the node editor to control them, but we can expose these values and name them properly accordingly to adjust the different parameters. So if I find the combine XY, this is just splitting these values so that we can have individual inputs for each of these. So I can just bring this back to 1, 1. I can use this as the wall length, and I will just drop it in like that. Now if you hit N, you'll see the node properties. So I can call this wall length. So this is just exposing that parameter, and renaming it will make it easier for me to find here. So I can just now change the values here, and then this can be the wall width, and we have the wall height. And if you want to make another wall, all you have to do is just duplicate this transform node and then feed in this geometry node, and this is just going to make sure that the duplicate will have the same parameters as here, share the same parameters as this. And now you also can add a geometry join geometry. So if we bring this geometry in and then this geometry in, we have made a duplicate of this geometry, and we just have to output it here. And because we haven't changed any of these values, they're still in the same position. But if we rotate this, you can see that we get that. So I can rotate this 180 degrees, actually negative, let's try negative 90, like that. And then now I can change the wall length and width or thickness, and I can see what we get. You can change the height, and now we can duplicate this even further. So duplicate, still want the parameters to come in, duplicate that so that I can add this again. This time around we can rotate this 90 degrees, let's see, 0 degrees, yeah, 0 degrees, and just move this on the Y axis like that. And again, we can still control all the parameters. So we might need a few tweaking for the length to make this independent from this. We get that, and we can also duplicate the other wall for this side. Shift D and another geometry node. So we can feed this here and this here, and then this here. So for this, let's see, we just have to move this. So thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.